And welcome to Getting on Track. Today, after a beautiful Memorial Day weekend that we had, it didn't start off here in Cleveland with the best weather, but it was a little bit rainy, but it turned into a fantastic weekend. And, you know, Memorial Day weekend is always so special, not only so that we as a country can all come together and honor those fallen troops that have given the ultimate sacrifice to protect us and to protect democracy, but it's a very special weekend in racing. It's always the weekend that we get to watch some of the biggest races in American motorsports, the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600, the two biggest motorsports in America, racing in two of their biggest races on the same day on Sunday, the day before Memorial Day. Just a fantastic weekend, and here we are, Tuesday, after the big events on Sunday, and boy, we've got a lot of to talk about. So, yeah, we're going to start off with the Truck Series at Charlotte, and I do want to say that this Memorial Day weekend for me started out with losing internet in my house. I had no internet from Friday afternoon. If anybody was watching on my Twitch, I streamed on opening day of the brand new Superstar Racing Experience game. I streamed for about 3 hours, and immediately after that stream ended, internet gone. And it did not come back until Sunday morning. So my notes for the trucks and the Xfinity Series are abbreviated because of the fact that I was watching and taking notes on my phone at the same time. That was you know, and I was also making pizza for during the truck race. So it was a triple tasking situation, but nonetheless, we're going to talk about it here. So the Truck Series at mile and a half speedways, always exciting because of the draft, because of the big moves on restarts, because everybody is always aggressive on the backstretch. It's just one of those things that it's always entertaining. And folks, this was no different. You know, Sheldon Creed, he was the pole sitter, and he took the lead early, which is about usual for Sheldon Creed. You know, it's expected of him to be about that good, and he led the whole first stage. Not a lot happened. He led the whole first stage, and he ended up winning the stage. But I started looking at this race, and I was thinking, man, Carson Hocevar, he's had a couple of good runs recently, and he's not really somebody you expect to run up front, but he has been doing really well. He started in the top 10, and he's doing great. So I was watching Carson Hocevar in this race on my tiny little phone screen as I watched it. But yeah, Sheldon Creed led every lap, won stage one, and then in stage two, they came back from commercial. Brett Holmes had a ton of damage, and it was like, what the heck happened? And then they said the caution had come out already because Tanner Gray had spun, so it was like, what the heck? There's two crashes going on. But they both happened at the same time. Tanner Gray and Brett Holmes also spun out at the same time. Brett Holmes, he was the one that crashed. Tanner Gray was okay, but Brett Holmes crashed, and that was unfortunate for Brett Holmes, who was putting together a solid run. But it is what it is sometimes. Brett Holmes, he got taken out of that race. So then Sheldon Creed, he was not able to start on the outside on the restarts. That was just it was absolutely something he was not able to do. And he just couldn't get any traction up top, and he dropped way to the back. Like he dropped back on, there was 7 to go in stage 2. He dropped back after spinning the tires, dropped back, and they crashed. I mean, he ended up going through it. He just never got traction with 7 to go after that restart. He spun the tires, slid back, and Todd Gilliland they were 3 wide, and they slid up the track, and they crashed, and then Sheldon Creed might have been okay, but he slid down, and he nailed Chase Purdy, and then that was the end of his day. So Sheldon Creed out of the race at that point. And then it was a 1-lap dash for the stage. They were 4 wide down the backstretch, and the 22, Austin Wayne South spun around. Zane Smith won the stage. Exciting finish to stage 2. And then it was a little bit, there wasn't a lot going on until about 20 laps to go, and this is where there is some controversy that has come out of this race. Usually Friday night truck races get a little bit like this, a little bit of controversy going on. Everybody's tired. First race of the weekend is the truck series, whatever. But Matt Crafton was smoking, and he was in the pits. So all of NASCAR's officials and all the people that call the cautions and whatnot were looking at the track. They were trying to figure out if there was fluid on the track, because it's really dangerous if there's fluid on the track, and you have to call the caution. Well, what happened while there was fluid on the track is that Trey Hutchins, I believe that's his first name. I know his last name is Hutchins. Hutchins slid up the wall, or he slid up the track, hit the wall, and he was going slow, kind of like his truck was like grinding against the wall, and he came off the wall a little bit coming out of turn 4. And NASCAR, all the people were focused on making sure that everybody was okay and there was no fuel, and they did not notice Trey Hutchins. And Johnny Sauter, following Drew Dollar, had no idea that Trey Hutchins was stopped on the track, and he just plowed through him. I mean, full speed, on the throttle, coming out of the corner, turn 4 at Charlotte, just nailed him. And the whole side of Johnny Sauter's truck just disintegrated, got peeled off. It was insane. And the safety crew, it was this really bizarre situation because everybody was so focused on Matt Crafton and what was happening that they never, it was almost like everything happened in slow motion when Johnny Sauter crashed, because the safety crew went to the Hutchins truck and they didn't go to Johnny Sauter immediately, and it was like 3 minutes until they got there, and it was crazy, and he didn't put his window net down. Johnny Sauter was okay, but that was a very, very scary moment of the race because the camera cut, usually when the camera cuts and you see a crash, it's not like you can see the inside of somebody's truck. And when they cut the camera over to Johnny Sauter, you could see through the roll cage in his truck. The side was entirely gone. So that was a really, really scary accident. I haven't seen a car in NASCAR or one of the top 3 divisions disintegrate like that in a long time. I mean, that really just doesn't happen. But when Hutchins was pretty much stopped, and Johnny Sauter just hit him at full speed, and that is just a scary, scary accident. But everybody was okay, and the safety precautions that NASCAR and everybody takes really, really helped out Johnny Sauter there. And I'm sure that they'll take those trucks to the R&D center to see what they can do better and what happened exactly and all that. So then, soon after that, John Hunter Nemechek went on to win. Just like usual, he always ends up going on to win. And Carson Hocevar had a really, really strong run. Like I was talking about, he probably would have. He's really good at driving. He finished second place, and he was chasing down John Hunter Nemechek at the end of the race. But, it just wasn't his day, unfortunately. So, anyway, after the truck race, this was moving on to Saturday now, still day 2 of no internet for me, but it was the Alsco Uniforms 300 at Charlotte. It was the Xfinity Series, and during the practices for this race, all of Twitterville had decided that they were anti-PJ1 at this point. They were like, no, we're not putting any more sticky stuff on the tracks. And they all kind of flipped out about that because it wasn't coming in the practices. But during the race, it came in, and they were running the top. It was almost immediately when they started racing that they proved Twitterville wrong in that they just, that stuff hooked up, and they were just good to go. So, the PJ1, I still think that if you've got a track that, like a Charlotte Motor Speedway, where the track is so grippy and it's so tacky, and and it's aging, but there's no signs of the aging, I think that at that track it is okay to try to give the outside lanes more grip. Now, maybe should they go a little bit higher up on the track? Yeah. Maybe they shouldn't make it the second groove. They should make you try to use a maybe 2.5 third groove there, but honestly, I think that it's a great idea. I think that you should try to make it so that the drivers they're encouraged to use a different lane. And then even if you make that lane better through the middle for long runs, it allowed people in the race to get these really, really good like slide job, dive bomb situations where you were able to pass on the bottom. So there was it opened up a passing groove, and that was cool. And I really think that the people who are anti-PJ1 on Twitter should just kind of suck it up. Not the PJ1, that would be dangerous. Either way, this was the drivers only broadcast, and that was really, 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 really neat. I love the drivers only broadcast. You had Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney in the booth. You take the Cup Series drivers, put them in all the spots. You had Chad Knaus, Brad Keselowski, and Ricky Stenhouse in the Fox Studios Charlotte, and it's just always a ton of fun because sometimes they don't know what to do when they make a mistake. Then they make a mistake, they just kind of shut down, and they're like, well, I don't know what to do now. And that's just those moments are really funny for me. So we'll talk about this race right after the break. I know you don't want to take a break, but you're getting on track right now. We'll take a brief little break at this moment, and we'll come back and we'll talk about the Alsco Uniforms 300. See you after. And welcome back to Getting on Track, folks. It's time to talk about the Alsco Uniforms 300, which is the Xfinity Series race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And one of the stories going into this race was Brandon Godovic, and him in the 26 car. He felt uncomfortable driving at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and he was like, guys, I'm not going to race in this race, which is, I don't know if that's ever happened before, but good on him for admitting he felt uncomfortable to drive the car, because it could have led to a bad situation. It's an interesting thing, but go you, Brandon Godovic, for admitting something like that, because that's a difficult thing to just be like, hey guys, I don't feel like I should be out there right now. And that's I can look at a couple of Cup Series drivers and say that maybe they should say something similar. They probably shouldn't feel very comfortable on the track, and one of them has the last name Ware. His name is actually Cody Ware. He's the one that should probably not drive anymore. But either way, also the 66, whoever was driving that car this weekend, really just anyway, we'll talk about that a little later. But anyway, Grant Enfinger filled in for Brandon Godovic. It was Grant Enfinger's first Xfinity Series start. He's a Truck Series regular. He has been for a couple years. If you ever watch my streams, I've got a Grant Enfinger flag that hangs behind me as I stream. And he started his first start, and he drove up and got turned into the wall and wrecked. So that was all that story pretty much led straight to the wall, and that was it. So unfortunate situation for that team, and that was a really tough break. So but yeah, like I was saying just before the break, this race was interesting because of the fact that the PJ1 did come in, and it did allow for people to use the bottom lane as a passing lane. So it's really I think that personally I think that the PJ1 is a good deal. I think that we should continue to use the PJ1 on tracks that really need it. Now, maybe they're overusing it. I don't know if they're overusing it or not, but I think that at Charlotte Charlotte needs it. It's one of those tracks that just really, it's not the best, it's not the most exciting track without it. And I am all for modifying stuff and changing things up a little bit to make it so that it's a more entertaining race, because in the end, sports are entertainment, and it's not something that it's not an option otherwise. There aren't sports that exist right now that aren't made to be exciting and made to be entertainment, because of the fact that there are no sports without fans. And the only way that there would be fans of anything is if that thing is entertaining. So when you look at sports and sports that have fans, it can't possibly be just about athletic ability or just about who's the best at the game or just about who the fastest driver is or who builds the fastest car. None of it is about just that. It's also about entertainment. And NASCAR's job is to sell their product. So if they can sell their product easier by making the racing more entertaining, then by all means they should do that. They are completely within their right to do that, and they should, because it sells their product better. And every single company is like that. And now I know a lot of people, when hearing that, would reply, well, what about the Olympics? The Olympics is popular, but the thing about the Olympics is that it is just the same. They have to sell the Olympics. NBC Sports sells the Olympics as a product that is entertainment, and they sell it to advertisers and they sell it to fans, and the way that they can get money from broadcasting the Olympics is because it's entertaining for people. Now, I don't know if in the Olympics they are doing anything like NASCAR is with the PJ1 on the tracks. I don't know, because I don't follow that enough to know. But I would assume that there have been little tweaks and changes to each sport in the Olympics, and football and baseball and hockey and basketball and everything. I betcha that there have been tweaks and adjustments over time that have made it so that those sports are more entertaining for people to watch. And the perfect example is playoffs in every single sport in America. There's always some kind of playoffs. There's college football playoffs. There's NFL playoffs. There's MLB playoffs. The World Series, the finals, all of those things, the Super Bowl, all of those things are exactly the same as what NASCAR is doing to try to sell their sport, to make it more exciting, more entertaining. They could just do NFL, the MLB, and hockey and the NBA could all do a full season long of just whoever has the best record at the end wins. And that's it. But how entertaining is that? It's not. And then you take all those people, like if I'm a Cleveland fan and we get halfway through the season and the Indians are mathematically not able to win the championship because of their record at the time, why would I watch any more baseball? Other than just because I like the Indians. And then I watch all the Indians games, but I don't watch the ones that matter, right? But I'm going to watch the World Series every year. I'm going to watch the finals. I'm going to watch the Super Bowl every year, no matter what teams are. So it's just like that. And that's what NASCAR is attempting to do, and they're trying to make their sport more entertaining so they can sell it better. So I get kind of mad when I see people that are like, no, we need to go back to the good old days. No, there were no good old days, because we're only going up. Talking about the Xfinity race now. Stage 1 winner was Daniel Hamrick, and he was having a great race. And everybody's wanting him to get his first ever win in the Xfinity Series. He's been so close for so long. Years, it's been so long. He made it to the Final Four without a win. And he is so close. So he won Stage 1 in this race. They talked about the slide jobs and stuff. This was in Stage 2. And then Ty Gibbs went for the kill shot on Chase Briscoe, and he wrecked himself. He came out of turn 4, went up there, tried to wreck Chase Briscoe, and then he hit him, and then he just slid through the turf. And there were a couple of moments in the slow-mo that I saw that splitter dig in. Nothing happened to that race car because it's turf, and that's something that we need at every track, every single racetrack. There is no longer an excuse to not use turf. Charlotte did it. It works. Do it to your track. Do it. Use the turf. It's not easy to drive through turf, so you can't cut the course. So use the turf. Oh my gosh. Use the turf, folks. Use the turf. Matt Mills spun, and he almost hit the drone cam that Fox's drone cam at the beginning of Stage 3. He spun out, And the drone cam was right there doing one of those cool panoramic shots of the whole field driving by, and Matt Mills almost took it down. But yeah. And then Chase Briscoe, after almost getting wrecked by Ty Gibbs, he was crazy fast, and he was passing people on the bottom to get the lead. Not in the PJ1. While everybody was running in the PJ1, Chase Briscoe running on the bottom, passed everybody. Awesome. Then Jeb Burton spun, and that was sad. And then Hamrick, he went into the pits, and he had a bad time in the pits. He got boxed in, and he lost 5 spots. And then he got a penalty for his tire impeding somebody else's pit stop. And they showed the replay, and sure enough, this thing rolled. And it rolled right into somebody else's pit stop, and the guys were tripping over it and stuff. So he got a penalty. That was unfortunate. And then AJ Allmendinger had an issue, and he was really fast. He finished second in stage 1. And his right front tire was coming off because he thought its brake rotor exploded. But actually what happened was during the pit stop, a lug nut, one of the 5 lug nuts that hold the wheels on, as they took it off, it bounced in just the right way so that it got lodged between the wheel and the brake rotor, and it bent the brake rotor, and that was craziness. So he was out of the race, unfortunately. And then the caution came out within the window, and the debris for the caution was actually the entire Zero car because his body panels were falling off. So that was insane. And then they showed a replay of Justin Haley coming out of the pits, and he was given this water bottle, like one of those cheapo $1 water bottles that you get in those big packs. It wasn't like a nice Aquafina one or anything, or Dasani. It was just one of those cheap ones with a tiny lid. And he was pulling out of the pits, and he had it in his hand, and he squeezed it hard enough on the wheel that the thing exploded. And so they had the helmet cam on him, and he was turning the wheel, and his water bottle was flying over. So that was one of those things that made me laugh. I figured I should mention it. Maybe you could find a replay of it somewhere. And then there was an enormous crash. Like, there was a lot of crashing at Charlotte. That doesn't usually happen, I feel like. But Ryan Sieg stayed out on 2 tires. Tried to slid, tried to save the slide. It lasted for the entire corner, but it hooked up the track, and he just plowed into Josh Berry, and that was insanity. After that, though, Brett Moffitt was in that one. A really tough break for that team there. He switched points, Brett Moffitt did, from trucks to Xfinity this season, and he's a contender, but tough break after you get wrecked there. And then this was during stage 3. Ty Gibbs, finally, he got back from spinning. He moved Chase Briscoe without touching him, just moved him with the air. But if there was no air, Ty Gibbs would have moved up and wrecked him. Like the way that his car moved, he would have hit him. And then Chase Briscoe spun out, and that made me really bad because the second time Ty Gibbs tried to wreck Chase Briscoe that race, and that seems to be just the new thing. Like, if you're Austin Cindric or you're Ty Gibbs, the only way that you can win races is by wrecking people. So whatever, I guess. Ty Gibbs ended up winning. Brandon Brown had fresh tires, and Daniel Hamrick. Oh, there was a big crash on a restart. Riley Herbst, Brandon Jones, Hamrick, and all 3 of the Kaulig cars had issues, but Jeb Burton finished pretty well in the race, and that concludes our time. Ty Gibbs won the race by wrecking Chase Briscoe. Unfortunate. Tough break for everybody there. And that's going to take us to our second break of the day. And after this, we're going to talk about the Coca-Cola 600. Stay tuned on Getting on Track. And welcome back, folks, to Getting on Track. And now it's our third segment, and it is time to talk about the Coca-Cola 600. And the first word I'm going to say about this race is the same as the last word that I'm going to say about this race. Kyle Larson. He started in first. He finished in first. He was in first. And that's the story of the race, folks. So we're moving on. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to move on because Kyle Larson did he did a little bit more during the race than just lead. But Kyle Larson this season is unstoppable. In the last couple of weeks, he finished second at Circuit of the Americas. He finished second in the dirt race after that. He finished third in the dirt race after that. He won the Coca-Cola 600. And then last night, Monday night, he won another dirt race. This guy is an absolute monster in any race car you put him in. And we all knew that at some point in his career he was going to catch a break. He was going to get a break and he was going to be on a big team because he's so good. He took that Chip Ganassi 42 car and just absolutely drove it past its limit, past what they were able to normally do in that car. He won races in that car, and that doesn't usually happen for the 42. But it did with Larson driving it, and because of that, he just once the dust settled on his moment, it's all going to be history. So the 5 car, number 5, won race number 1 for Hendrick Motorsports. The first ever win that Hendrick Motorsports had was number 5. And now Kyle Larson drives number 5, and this past weekend he won Hendrick Motorsports' 269th race. And while that might be a nice statistic, it means a lot more, because now Hendrick Motorsports is the winningest team in NASCAR Cup Series history, more than Petty Enterprises, which is Richard Petty's team. He's the king, and he has been surpassed. It's a record that, it's one of those things, when you beat a Richard Petty record in NASCAR, that's big news. And they beat it with driver number 5, Kyle Larson. So I'll go through my notes in this race, but really it's all about Kyle Larson. I wrote that generally cars that start fast don't stay fast into the night. Totally wrong about that today. Everybody was fast for the whole time in the beginning and the end. Then the big switch never happened. Usually there's a lot of comers and goers in this race. Nope, wasn't like that. Larson and Elliot jumped ahead. Elliot was stuck too wide, but that wasn't why Larson drove away. It's because Larson was just way faster. He said, "See you in 600 miles, fools," at the very beginning of the race. But Kyle Busch was fast. I thought maybe he would have a shot to win it. Suarez was working on a top 10 early in this race. That was pretty good. It looked like it was going to be a Hendrick kind of day. 5, 9, 24. They were all fast. The 48 car, he was struggling a little bit, but they did some pit strategy later that helped him out. Jay Leno was in the booth for a while, just randomly. And he was in the booth. Larson was dominating in the background, and they were joking around with Jay Leno. Clint Boyer and Jeff Gordon were having an absolute ball with him. So that was pretty fun during the race. But yeah, Kyle Larson won stage 1, easy peasy. Hendrick power leading the way, and then Chase Elliott beat Larson with a slick pass in the middle of in between a lap car and himself in stage 2. But Kyle Larson's pit crew came through for him, man. It's just one of those things, we're not used to seeing Kyle Larson with a good pit crew. It's dangerous. Kyle Larson got the lead back in the pits, drove away. Kurt Busch went boom. Yellow came out. His engine expired, so that was unfortunate. It was a belt problem. Both him and his teammate in the 42 car had that issue. So the intensity after the restart was super high because people were crazy close, and I was super close to winning Clint's money. This is our weekly update about if I have won Clint's money, and the answer yet again is no, because the 43 car, Eric Jones, we needed Eric Jones to be in the top 15 because Kurt Busch blew his engine, and we needed 8 Chevys in the top 15, and there were only 7. And Eric Jones just was not fast enough to be in the top 15 at the end of stage 2. So we didn't win Clint's money, but that's okay because of the fact that I think that it was like 3,000 people won, and they all got $7 of $25,000. So, $7, whatever. Anyway, did a break halfway for Memorial Day, moment of silence. That's really cool. Halfway break in the race. That's something neat about it. 4-stage race. So pretty cool they have a halfway point. And then we started realizing that Alex Bowman was the weak Hendrick car. We saw it on the restart. He just dropped back. And then we learned, they did a segment, during the race that there's a Super Bowl champion from the Denver Broncos who has become the rear tire changer on Austin Dillon's pit crew. Like, wow, that's incredible. He's never going to win another championship on Austin Dillon's team. So that's a tough break for him. I don't know why he chose Austin Dillon's team. Either way, William Byron took the lead. So there were points in this race where all three of the top Hendrick cars led during the race, you know. Larson was struggling in traffic. Byron was able to catch up. 5 to go. Newman slammed the wall, brought out a yellow, and Larson won the stage. And that was his third stage win of the day. Went on to win one more. But yeah, so then Bubba was having a great day, Bubba Wallace, and he got a penalty for equipment interference, just like Daniel Hamrick in the Xfinity Series race. It's unfortunate. So then, stage 4, the Kyle and Kyle show had begun. Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, but it wasn't really. It was more just like the Kyle show. It was Kyle Larson. But Jeff Gordon. So now this is when maybe the funniest moment for me in this race happened. It was a battle for second place with Chase Elliott, William Byron, and Kyle Busch. It was an awesome battle, fantastic battle. And they used the 66 car one lap as a pick, and they had to go around, and it shuffled up the order of the drivers. And then, a couple laps later, they passed the 66 car again. And Jeff Gordon interrupted Clint Boyer and said, "Hold on, how many 66s are out there? 3, 4?" And then Clint Boyer said, disappointedly, "Nope, it's just the one. It's pretty bad." like the 66 was just, so. Anyway, folks, Kyle Larson swept the day. I thought it was a fantastic race. Kyle Larson on the crew, or his crew chief said, Cliff Daniels came on the radio and said, "We spanked him good." So yeah, the battle for second and third was fantastic at the end. But there were certain people on Twitter, Nick Bromberg, who did not like this race, which is interesting because there are certain people on Twitter, like Nick Bromberg, that seem like this would be the perfect race for them because they're anti-gimmicks, anti-stages, anti-playoffs, you know. And this seems like the perfect race for somebody like that because of the fact that when you have a race with very few cautions, and the only cautions are for stages, there's no manufactured drama, quote-unquote, whatever. There's none of that stuff. So if you're anti that stuff, you'd think that this would be a perfect race for you because of the fact that there was none of that. But whatever. He was mad about it, so whatever. It is time now, folks. You might have noticed that I skipped over talking about the Indy 500. I usually go in order, but I have done it backwards because I wanted to save the Indy 500 for the end of talking about races today on Getting on Track, because I think that the Indy 500 was the best race of the weekend. And I think a lot of people agree with me on that because I saw them on Twitter saying that they agreed with me. Not specifically me, but, you know, they were saying that they really liked it. And I watched the whole pre-race show. I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was so awesome. Driver intros were exciting. I love 3 wide starts. They should do that every week. And I got so pumped up for the race. And then there was drama on the pace laps. I love it. Will Power had no power in his car because he couldn't start it. So they rolled it into the pits, and they gave it a charge up. He fired it up, and he was good to go. And he went back out there. And then immediately, Colton Herta and Renus VK jumped ahead of Scott Dixon. They mixed it up for the lead, and Scott Dixon started saving fuel. Well, that is just classic Scott Dixon now, isn't it? He's like, I don't want to lead this race right now because there's only one lap that matters, and I want to be first in that lap. So he got behind everybody, started saving fuel, and I want to tell you right now that last week on this show, it was a Thursday show, the first ever Thursday show, I mentioned 2 drivers who I was looking at to win this race. It was Connor Daly and Elio Castroneves. I mentioned both of them as people that I thought were going to have good runs, and I put them in my fantasy lineup. And Connor Daly led the most laps in the race. And Elliot Castroneves won the race. And I just want to say that I called it, and I think that is totally cool that I called it. But here we are, still in the beginning segment of this race. Elliot Castroneves was running well, along with Tony Kanaan. Hard to tell who was really good, because everybody was kind of saving fuel. They were kind of lined up saving fuel at the beginning. Rinus VeeKay, who has led most of the race to this point, he was the first one to pit in the race, and so he didn't have any extra fuel. But then this is when the craziness started, because Scott Dixon had saved enough fuel to stay out a little bit longer, and he was staying out. He was going to come in the next lap, but Steph Wilson crashed on pit road in the middle of the pit cycle, and Scott Dixon wasn't able to pit because the pit lane was blocked and closed because the caution had come out. And then I wrote, they're looking great unless they run out of fuel. Well, Scott Dixon ran out of fuel, and his car went into vapor lock, and he was stuck in the pits, and so the same thing happened to Rossi. And then, when they were back out on track, one lap down, Alexander Rossi pulled up next to Scott Dixon, and he gave him this point. He did this point like, let's go, Scott Dixon, let's go to the front. And they never did. They never went back to the front. So, we'll talk more about it after the break. One more, it's the final break. It's the final break. So just stick around and see what happens after in the final segment of the show. You're getting on track. I'm your host, Duke Antczak, and we'll see you on the other side. And welcome back to Getting on Track, and we are now talking about the Indianapolis 500 in 2021. It's exciting. I'm so excited about the race. Anyway, so we just mentioned that Steph Wilson crashed on the pit lane, and that pretty much ended Scott Dixon's day. He was the favorite to win the race. I'm wearing his hat right now. And that was it for him. So then, after the restart, Connor Daly took the lead, and he's an Indianapolis native. And the crowd sounded like an Earnhardt took the lead at Talladega. And that was a cool moment because there was 135,000 people there. Still a little bit of a limited capacity, but boy, was it cool that everybody was screaming and yelling. So, yeah, that was cool. That was really, really cool. So then I wrote, leading and pitting first will not be the way that you win this race. Well, I ended up being wrong. But at this point in the race, I had put the race on my phone. We had internet back, but I put the race on my phone, and we drove to my aunt's house so that we could join them for a Memorial Day cookout. So I watched the rest of the race there. So my notes become a little bit weird, and what happened is they had the volume of their TV on 12, and I sat just kind of close to the remote, like where it was sitting, and I sneakily started turning up the volume every chance I got. And I got the volume from 12 to 26 just in like one-click increments over the course of the race. So I thought that was kind of funny. I was trying to sneakily turn the volume up because 12 is pretty low. I mean, come on. It's the Indy 500. Anyway, Joseph Newgarden pitted first after the halfway point, and it was a three-stopper there for everybody. So, three-stopper for everybody, and that was it with the pit strategy. It was a straight-up race after that. VeeKay and Connor Daly were doing old classic NASCAR tandem drafting style switcheroony. That was pretty cool. Scott McLaughlin missed his pit stall, and that was a rookie stripe situation. That's a pretty tough break for him. And then an exciting moment happened that all my little cousins enjoyed. Graham Rahal crashed, and that was unfortunate. It was a big crash, but he was coming out of the pits, and he just looked disgusted with himself when he got out of the car. And it wasn't that he was disgusted with himself; he was disgusted with the situation because he came into the pits, he drove out of the pits, and by the time he got to the corner, he only had 3 wheels on his car. And when you have only 3 wheels on a car that's meant for 4 wheels, you spin out and crash out of the Indianapolis 500, which is really unfortunate for somebody that's doing so well. His wheel just popped off, and then his wheel bounced and hit Connor Daly, which is super dangerous. But if Connor Daly hadn't touched the brakes at all, it might have hit his aero screen halo dealio, which, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. Really, really scary moment there with the wheel bouncing around the track and hitting other cars. But everybody's okay, and that's what we're thankful for. Then Dixon and Rossi were still a lap down, but Dixon actually wasn't one lap down. He was actually no laps down. And then he was able to go on one more stop, and I thought he was on a great strategy. They never mentioned it again, and he finished at like 15th. So that was unfortunate. And then I was like, man, oh man, I'm rooting for Elio Castroneves. And then my uncle came in the room and he said, I want Helio to win. And I said, no, it's Elio. And then he won. He won it. He won the race. Elio Castroneves is the first Indianapolis 500 that he's ever raced, and not on a Penske-powered vehicle. He wins. And that is crazy, because now he is tied for the record of the most Indianapolis 500 wins ever at 4. And let me show you this here. It's Indy 500 4-timer club, and folks, this is some company. AJ Foyt, Al Unser Sr., Rick Mears, and now Elio Castroneves, the only 4-time winners and it just, I'll tell you what, that is insanity to me for a race that has been run 106 times. 4 wins is the most that anybody has. I mean, it just shows how incredibly difficult it is to win the Indianapolis 500. And it's just incredible that we were able to watch history happen. And I don't know if that'll ever happen again. If there's any driver in the IndyCar series that could win that race 4 times, I have no idea. So it was really, really special moment. And hearing the crowd, Jeff Gluck tweeted an awesome video on Twitter of when Elio Castroneves got out of his car and just the crowd absolutely losing their minds. And he got out of the car and they were cheering, and it was so loud, and you were like, there's no way this could get louder. And then he jumps onto the fence and starts climbing it, classic Elio Castroneves, and they just get louder and louder, and it was insane. And it gives me shivers to think about that. All of those people were like, they were so into it and so passionate and so, just awesome. Just an awesome moment. And really, really, really special that he was able to win that race. So great on Elio Castroneves for winning that race, and great on that team for giving him a car that allowed him to win his 4th Indianapolis 500. So that's just special. Now it's time. Now that we're done talking about last weekend, we can start talking about next weekend and the week ahead. And the first thing I want to talk about is what's happening tomorrow, Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021. It's the NASCAR Pro Invitational Series on iRacing. They're starting at 7 with practice, and then at 8 o'clock, they're racing the next-gen cars on the Chicago Street Course. And you might be like, what the heck is the Chicago Street Course? Well, nobody knows, because it's a brand new thing that NASCAR worked with iRacing to develop, and they think that this could lead to a street course coming to the NASCAR Cup Series in the near future, which is really, really interesting, because NASCAR has never raced on a street course. The closest thing that NASCAR has to a street course is the Roval, and it's not a street course, it's a road course. So Chicago Street Course iRacing, that's going to be an exciting race. Don't miss that. Then on Friday, the ARCA Menards Series at 6 o'clock is going to race for 150 miles at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Ohio. Welcome to Ohio, NASCAR. This is the Ohio weekend. For ARCA and Xfinity, at least, they're racing in Mid-Ohio. And then Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, they will be racing, the Xfinity Series will be racing in Mid-Ohio. Like I put it in the title on the Twitch stream, road course racing weekend, big time road course racing weekend this weekend for NASCAR, because it's 2 races at Mid-Ohio after the Pro Invitational at the Chicago Street Course, and then on Sunday it is Sonoma. And haven't been to Sonoma in the last year. I mean, last year we weren't able to go to Sonoma, so this year we're going back to Sonoma. Pretty exciting. Because, Sonoma is a fun track, I think. And, so, but something interesting about what has happened is that Kyle Larson won at Charlotte easily. And because of that, the likelihood is that he's going to get the pole for Sonoma, because he's high enough in the points, he had a fast enough lap. He's likely going to get the pole for Sonoma. And because of that, it will mean that it'll be the 4th Sonoma race in a row that Kyle Larson has gotten the pole for, because they didn't go there last year when Kyle Larson wasn't racing. And the 3 races before that, he got the pole because he was the fastest. Kyle Larson, Sonoma's one of his tracks, he's just so fast there. And in a year like this where, I don't know, it's going to be an interesting thing to watch Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott battle for the win at Sonoma, because of the fact that Chase Elliott is kind of the road course king right now. He's won 5 of the last 6, and he's just absolutely dominating on the road courses. So Sonoma's a road course that Chase Elliott hasn't won on, and it wasn't included in the last 6. Is that right? I think it's right. And it's going to be a fascinating race, because Kyle Larson is fast, and he's got a fast car, and he's got a good pit crew. And Chase Elliott is always the favorite on road courses, and they're both the 2 to beat, I think, and they're going to battle it out, and it's going to be exciting, because Hendrick Motorsports doesn't have a lot of those team order situations where it's like, don't hit your teammates, or don't race hard with your teammates. You're allowed to race hard, just don't wreck them. Which is a neat part about Hendrick Motorsports doing so well, is that they're all able to race each other. But as far as the Xfinity Series race goes, I'm looking at AJ Allmendinger and Austin Cindric, of course, to win that race, because of the fact that they're the favorites on road courses. Easily the favorites on road courses. I think that AJ Allmendinger might have a little bit more experience on Mid-Ohio than Cindric, but I might be totally wrong about that. But AJ Allmendinger definitely is the favorite for the race. And then on Sunday, I talked about it, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott. I think that they're the favorites. But keep an eye on Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Busch, because I think that they genuinely have a shot at winning the race at Sonoma. So you have to keep an eye out for that. And then, of course, some more events going on this weekend. It's Formula E at Santiago. They're running race 9 and 10 in Santiago this weekend. So Saturday and Sunday, catch the replays of those, because they're both live at 6 a.m. So you don't have to get up. Just watch it on the replay. 45-minute race. Pretty cool. It's an exciting series, so make sure you watch those. Lots of racing this weekend. We got 30 seconds left in the show, so I'm just going to plug myself a little bit here. Make sure you follow me on Twitter if you want to see what I tweet during the week, at Duke Antczak Show. And then if you want to see more of my live stuff during the week, follow on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Team Duke. Follow there. I play NASCAR Heat 5. I've been playing the SRX game. That's really a ton of fun. I play Madden, NFL, and it's always a good time. So make sure you check out all of that stuff after you watch this. And, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Thank you for all of you listening on All Sports Cleveland out of the Ohio Media School. This is Duke Antczak, and you're listening to Getting on Track, and I'll see you next week on Tuesday, folks. Have a good one.